Well, my guest is one of the world's most renowned pitmasters. He's a six-time world champ with his Cool Smoke Barbecue team, a barbecue Hall of Famer from the class of 2018, and an award-winning author. Many were introduced to him during his run as a judge on the groundbreaking television show Barbecue Pitmasters from Richmond, Virginia. It's always a treat to welcome Tuffy Stone to the Tailgate Guys BBQ show. Tuffy, thanks for your time. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, and thanks for having me. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing great out here in the Midwest, dealing with wintertime like a lot of the country is, but we'll persevere and we'll get out and cook when we can when it's nice enough.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's like I think you were telling me that y'all competed in 10 contests this year, and competition's a lot of work. It's a lot of it's a you're tired after a barbecue contest, and my guess is having done 10 this year. I think you were saying it was the most you've ever done. Um, by the time the season comes to an end, everybody's tired, ready to kind of take a break, and then about 3-4 weeks later, you're like, all right, ready to go again.
No question about it. And I think three of our weekends were doubleheader weekends to get to 10. So I'll tell you, those doubleheaders are really grinds. I don't know how you've probably done a few of those yourself over the years. And that as you get older, that takes a little bit out of you.
You're right about that. I mean, this goes back. There used to be, I got to remember the contest now, but there used to be two contests in Kansas City. Um, I don't think it was a Great American Barbecue Contest, but anyways, there was two contests back to back in Kansas City, and everybody did those. And then after they did those, they would haul butt and go to another place that was a decent drive away, and they'd do three contests in a weekend. So I've done back to backs, but three would do me in, I think.
Oh man, that is something. Those moving doubles are bad enough, but doing three, that seems unfathomable to me. But hey, let's talk about your year 2022. I know it's been a busy one, but hey, let me ask you first about the holiday season and the cooking that's involved. We're in between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Do you cook the traditional turkey and ham this time of the year for the holidays, or do you do other? You like to do different things?
Well, it's so we had about 14 of us over to our house for just this past Thanksgiving, and so my siblings and family members, they did all the side dishes and desserts. I took care of all the proteins, and so we did two turkeys. I spatchcocked one turkey, and I cooked that on a bullet smoker, just charcoal chunks of wood on a Weber Smoky Mountain, and then I did another turkey whole that was done in the oven with lemon and rosemary and garlic and butter and salt and pepper and things like that. The one that I spatchcock outside, I put one of my rubs on there, and then I finished that off with celery seed Alabama white barbecue sauce. So I had two different turkeys. Then I did a beef tri-tip uh, with a recipe that you've probably seen on my social. I lean on it a lot, but I just like it. I did the beef tri-tip, a celery seed rub, which is really simple rub recipe. It's probably on my website. It's in my cookbook, but it's just salt, pepper, garlic, ancho chili, and celery seed, and it's just very savory and robust. And so I put that on there, and then to finish that, I did crispy bacon brown butter was the balsamic drizzle. So I had that for beef. Oh, and then I had a really beautiful Chairman's Reserve bone-in uh, pork loin, and so I had a lot of your meats covered. I had turkey, pork, and beef.
Sounds like the way to do it. When you're a renowned cook, are you just kind of expected to handle the holiday meal cooking, or I guess would you have it any other way?
It's uh I I like them like you and everybody listens to your show. I love to light a fire and take a big old hunk of meat and cook it on there, and so I enjoy that process. I have a neighbor across the street, and or neighbors across the street. We've been good friends for 20 years, and we'll take turns cooking. Sometimes they'll do part of the food. I'll do part of the food. I go either way. Uh, I think it's the I don't know, it's the fellowship, it's the friendship that comes with cooking, and And I don't get me wrong, I love to just sit down and cook food that somebody else has made. I like to participate, so I'm very flexible that way. And a lot of my a lot of my friends and family, we just kind of take to the task at hand and divvy it up. And but it's with this time, it was like we had so many. My house is not the best suited house for 14 guests, and so we just, and a lot of people were traveling, so they brought casseroles and things that could be heated up really well, and it just made sense in this case for me to do the meats with everybody traveling to come see us.
It doesn't have to be meat, but do you have any specific family food traditions for Christmas? You know, things you like to do, certain, I guess, desserts or cinnamon rolls, anything like that?
So some of the historical dishes that tend to flow around in our family tree, when it comes to cooking, one of which was my grandmother's recipe, and it's pineapple hot dish. And it's actually, that recipe's in my cookbook. Um, and at the time, I was involved with a barbecue restaurant, and so I was obligated. I had sold that recipe. I'd sold my grandmother's recipe uh, to the restaurant that I was part of, and so I couldn't share the recipe 100%. But I ended up selling the restaurant, and in the process, I said, "All right, I'm going to sell the restaurant, but I get my grandmother's recipe back." So pineapple hot dish. Anybody that's listening, if you ever make the pineapple hot dish from the recipe from the cookbook, everything is my grandmother's recipe with the exception of the cayenne pepper. So take out the cayenne pepper and make that recipe. It's really good. And so, Lyndal, it's crushed pineapple and breadcrumbs and butter and egg and things like that. And you bake it off in a casserole dish. It's actually really great. I always like to teach people, when I'm teaching about cooking, how to make it easy to entertain. I've been a caterer since 1993, and so I'm always trying to make it easy for people to entertain. And the pineapple hot dish would be a great way to. It actually, if we bake it the day before we're going to serve it and then reheat it, it actually serves better reheated. But my grandmother would always serve that during the holidays, and it goes great with smoked meats. It goes great with smoked ham. It goes great with pulled pork and. But as kids growing up, we always kind of felt like we were cheating a little bit because it's kind of sweet. It actually goes good with ice cream too. But anyways, pineapple hot dish is a long tradition in our family. We would usually have stuffing two ways. We would have. I'm from Virginia, so oysters are pretty important in our neck of the woods, and so we would do a regular traditional stuffing, and then we would do a stuffing with oysters in it, and so that was always good for us. Oysters on the half shell is always a nice little treat. Um, we would do a spice cider. So that's something that's always around the holidays. And then we get into, green bean casserole and things like that, but those are some of our traditions.
Now, I saw the video recently on your Facebook about the white barbecue sauce that you mentioned earlier. You were not only brushing in on meat, but even vegetables. I think, was it broccoli that you were putting it on? Man, tell us a little bit about that white barbecue sauce.
It's like Chris Lilly and Big Bob Gibson's. They know what's going on, and I did not really get into making white barbecue sauces until I was actually working on my cookbook. And Lyndal, I was thinking, Virginia. So I got a friend. He wrote a cookbook, or he wrote a book about Virginia barbecue, and Joe thinks that I should try and get Virginia back on the map as far as a region of barbecue. And if you study barbecue, it would make sense that as the country developed and the colonies and bringing over pigs, a lot of what people know as North Carolina style barbecue is really Virginia barbecue as well. And that had to do with the ingredients in which we cooked with. And so anyways, the sauces that I tend to make, and when I was working on the cookbook, are like vinegar-based barbecue sauces. They're tomato-based barbecue sauces, but I felt like I needed some more barbecue sauces in the cookbook than just that. And so the first one I made was the video that you were mentioning, and that's celery seed white barbecue sauce. And, you know, most of your listeners are pretty knowledgeable when it comes to barbecue. So most of your listeners know that a white barbecue sauce is a mayonnaise-based barbecue sauce. But if there's anybody that's listening that doesn't know, you know, what about white barbecue sauce? It's a mayonnaise-based barbecue sauce. And, you know, I'm from Richmond, Virginia. So when, you know, we think about mayonnaise, we think about Duke's mayonnaise. So that's my home brand when it comes to mayonnaise. But anyways, just generally speaking, you know, mayonnaise-based barbecue sauce. If you want to make one and you don't have a recipe, you're gonna bring in some acid. So you're gonna have your mayonnaise. You're gonna have, you know, white vinegar, cider vinegar, lemon juice, maybe a combination of a couple of those. We're gonna bring in salt and spices and pepper and things like that. And it's anyway. So I started working on this sauce for the cookbook, and you know, initially building that recipe out was, you know, tasting and mixing and then putting it on food, and like, man, this is so good. And white barbecue, as you can tell, Lyndal, I get windy quick, but white barbecue sauces, if you have not cooked with one, they're really amazing because, so they're kind of tangy. So smoked meats and foods can sometimes get a little heavy. And so I love the way this tangy sauce just kind of like brightens up the, it's just a nice complement to smoked meats. But as I started playing around with it, it's interesting. So if we just put the white barbecue sauce on meat and don't put it back on heat, it'll be like white opaque color. But if we were to put that in you know, dip, you know, spread it on chicken or turkey or broccoli, when it goes back to the heat, it gets translucent. It gets like almost like lacquered, and it's really beautiful. So visually it changes. But I started playing around with this sauce, you know, for the cookbook, and I was really trying to test recipes and make sure that I was doing a good job in testing. And I started putting this on different foods. And Lyndal, it was just like, wow. You know, I kind of jokingly say you could put this on a rock and it tastes good, but that was the impact that the white barbecue sauce had on me. And I love, a lot of times when I grill outside, I like to make the whole meal come off the grill, you know. So whether I'm working on one of my kettles or whether I'm working on one of my ceramic cookers, or I don't care what you cook on, just get outside and cook. And you can have a gas grill for all I care. I like to play with fire, but whatever floats your boat, just get outside and cook something. But when I'm doing that, a lot of times I like to make the whole meal kind of come off the grill, and that's where vegetables come into play for me. So like I love grilling asparagus. I love charring broccoli. I like to cook that broccoli over high heat, and get it charred and little tinges of black and crunchy. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just to prepare that vegetable, I'll just trim it as needed, cut it into the right sizes, wash it, dry it, hit it with a little good olive oil, season it with, you know, maybe my everything seasoning or salt and pepper or whatever rub spice you want, and then grill that over a hot fire. And I don't want to overcook it. I don't want to get it mushy. I want it to be kind of al dente. I want it to have some crunch, some texture to it. And so broccoli, you could probably take somebody that doesn't think they like broccoli and char or grill broccoli, and they would enjoy it. And then when it's kind of like almost done cooking, you hit it with this white barbecue sauce and pop it right back. You can either apply the sauce while it's on the grill, or if you want to, take a pair of tongs and go to a mixing bowl really fast and then toss the vegetable back to the white sauce and pop it back on the grill and just close the lid for just a few minutes. It's just so good, Lyndal. Anyways, I'm a big fan of white barbecue sauces now. I ended up doing 3 for my cookbook, and Chris and everybody down there in Alabama, they got it right when it came to a white barbecue sauce. And for people that don't think they like mayonnaise, I don't get windy. I'm sorry. I had a customer come in the restaurant one day and he ordered some wings, and I said, "Do you want white or red sauce?" He goes, "White sauce. What's white sauce?" And as soon as I said the word mayonnaise, he goes, "Oh no, I don't want this." So I brought him. He ordered a dozen wings, red barbecue sauce. I brought him out 13. I said, look, I gave you 12 red and I gave you 1 white. This white sauce is going to change your mind on mayonnaise. Next time he came in to order wings, he ordered white sauce. So it's, I don't know. Have you ever made white sauce much?
I have, but I've missed it by not heating it back, after applying it. I just put it on and it sat and got cold, like you mentioned before. But I'm going to need to go back and try it, apply it, then heat the stuff I put it on.
Yeah, if you look at a lot of images of like when Chris, I keep bringing up Chris, but they're legendary for these direct cookers, and cooking these chickens, and they're really wonderful. But a lot of times you'll see him take these chickens which have been spatchcocked, and he'll just dunk them in a big old thing of white sauce, and then they go back up on the grill, and just another thing you can do with this white sauce. I mean, we can make salad dressings with it. We can make dips with it. You can make a coleslaw dressing with it. They're really versatile.
Well, I think a lot of us, pointing a finger at myself, kind of get set in our ways in what we cook outdoors on the grill or smoker, and creativity is something that you excel in. What's the key in getting creative? I guess just encouraging people to step outside their comfort zone.
I think for me, I started cooking, working under Chef Alon, who lives down the street from me now, a French guy. I started working for Chef Alon back in January, February of 1987, and initially it was just like just learning fundamentals, learning how to blanch a vegetable, learning how to roast a chicken, learning how to apply seasoning, how to grind fresh rubs, how to trim a beef tenderloin, learning how to make custards, learning how to make your mother sauces, learning the basics, learning techniques, getting yelled at a lot by Chef Alon. And I think there's these stages as cooks that people go through, where it's like, how long do I boil asparagus for? And you want somebody to say, well, you boil asparagus for 5 minutes. But as you get more experience, you start to learn that the answer to how long to boil asparagus for changes. How big are the asparagus? How many asparagus are you putting in how much water? Are you going to boil those asparagus and then shock them in an ice bath and then saute them later? Are they going to be served hot out of the water? There's so many. But anyway, so I think you build these fundamental skills. Let's talk about barbecue, because everybody that enjoys your show enjoys barbecue. Barbecue would be the same process. The first time I cooked a brisket, and my guess is the majority of most people, when they cook a brisket for the first time, that brisket's probably not as delicious and good to eat as it will be when you make a brisket for your 10th or your 15th or your 20th time. And so all cooking's like that. We learn these skills. I didn't know what the Texas crutch was before I got into barbecue. I did not. There's so many things that I didn't know about when I got into barbecue. So we learn these basic skills. That's why, as much as I want you to buy my seasonings and my rubs and sauces, I also want to teach you how to make them too. Now, a lot of people will go, and there's so many great, high quality, delicious products out there on the shelves that we can get and not have to mess with grinding spices and all that kind of stuff. But I like to teach people how to make rubs and sauces. And if you don't want to make a rub and sauce, then please support everybody that's working hard to make good products out there that makes it easier for you to cook. But teaching's always been way before barbecue. I mean, I started cooking in 1987, but I didn't get my first true barbecue pit until 2004. I cooked with grills, but I didn't have an offset smoker. But I was teaching back in the 90s how to make French food, how to make Italian food. I like taking people who might be a little bit nervous or unsure about how to make something and breaking that down and making it easier for them. But as we develop these skills and we get our knowledge base down, initially you start to think about, all right, what are some flavors that work well together? Salt and pepper obviously work well together. But as we develop we develop our knowledge and we understand how certain flavors kind of work well together. Eventually, you can get to this point where, based on all these skills and knowledge that you have and all these experiences, and you can start to play around a little bit, and you can start to riff, and you can start to be a little bit more creative, and it's fun, and so it's just a process. It's probably, I'm not a carpenter, but but I would think lots of different trades, lots of different skill sets out there. We accumulate this knowledge. I mean, how long have you been doing your show now?
Oh gosh, this is year 7. This is
And,
unbelievable.
and what was the first show like in terms of getting prepared? And today, you and I happened on this. You probably just it's like putting on your shoes. It's easy now, right?
Well, it's a whole lot easier and better than it was when I began. That's for sure. That first show was pretty rough.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like everything, but it's, cooking's fun. I mean, I think food and eating, I mean, obviously it's something that everybody does every day. Some people don't like to cook and, but most people like to eat. I don't know. It's fun.
What would surprise people as far as what you've cooked on an open fire that maybe was the most unusual? What surprised you that it turned out so good on open fire?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I said this to you. I might have talked about this story on your show before on another episode, but I mean, when I was a teenager, I liked to cook. My grandmother was a good cook. My dad was a good cook. My mom was a good cook, and we celebrated holidays and gatherings with food and passions at the table, so. But I always liked to cook, so I remember as a teenager, I liked to hunt and fish growing up. And I remember one day at the house I grew up in, cooking in a skillet a squirrel that I had harvested, and I had also caught some native brook trout because I like to fly fish, and that was my teenager version of a surf and turf. But I don't know. I mean, it just I don't know if there's anything that's too bizarre out there that I've cooked. I mean, I've cooked a lot of different types of game. I've cooked lots of different fish in my life. I've cooked goose and duck and deer and, all sorts of things like that. But I don't think there's anything that's too crazy. I mean, some of the stories of my culinary experiences that are probably interesting, just little side notes in my cooking life. Biggest plated. So my catering company that my wife and I have, which we started in 1993, it'll be 30 years in business next year, and we've done a lot of different huge events. We did a plated 3-course dinner one time for 3,100 people, and we had a staff of 262 people working the event, 88 chefs, and it was the night before we did heavy hors d'oeuvres for 4,500 people. One of the menu items that I had to make. Now, this is a lot of food. I had 22 people working in the kitchen getting ready for this. But one day, one item that we had to make was 7,000 ham biscuits. And we make these little tomato basil rolls. And we make a compound butter with honey and chipotle. And then we got country ham. But we had to make 7,000 ham biscuits. And this is just one item. Now, remember, we're doing 4,500 heavy hors d'oeuvres on Saturday night, plated sit-down dinner for 3,100 people on Sunday night. And one item that we had to make was 7,000 ham biscuits. And I thought to myself, how do I get a group of people to make 7,000 ham biscuits swiftly and good? So I came up with this idea. I got 20 people. I got 10 teams of 2. So mathematically, these 10 teams had to make 700 ham biscuits each. So I got them all together in a gathering. I said, all right, here's the deal. And I made a ham biscuit. I said, this is what they need to look like. So every team's going to be making 700 ham biscuits. Whatever team finishes first and makes them right will each get a $50 bill on top of their regular pay. Lyndal, you'd never seen 7,000 ham biscuits get made so fast It was amazing. And what was interesting, Julia, who's also, his name is Loretta, Julia's been helping us now. I don't want to get it wrong. Like 27 years, 28 years. And, but Miss Johnson and Bill Anderson, I don't know if Bill's still alive or not. Last time I saw him, he was in his 80s. But they were the oldest two people in the kitchen that day, and they won the money. And I'll tell you why. Because you talked about getting older, I think earlier, but it was movement management. They were so efficient with how they moved things, and they plowed through those 700 ham biscuits they had to make on their team faster than everybody else that was in that kitchen. It was pretty cool. But anyways, I got lots of stories like that.
That's outstanding. You mentioned the catering business. You still have the breakfast cafe. Is that still not going for you?
No, we bought that, as you know. I think we did an episode, but we bought that. The paperwork was done 2 months before COVID, which I don't think we could have had any worse timing than getting that restaurant right before COVID. And then our community, a lot of communities were different, but COVID really shut down the food and beverage industry in Richmond. And so we're so blessed. We were able to sell that business. I didn't get my hard work back, but I got all my investment back. And so it's not even a restaurant now. They wanted the real estate, but we were able to sell them the business. So I was lucky to dodge that, because that was tough.
My conversation with Tuffy Stone continues in a moment, but a quick word about Royal Oak Charcoal, the official charcoal, the Tailgate Guys BBQ show and cooking team. Royal Oak is proudly made in the USA with the finest of Missouri hardwoods. We thank the folks at Royal Oak for their support again this year. Whether you're cooking KCBS, SCA, or in the backyard, cook hot and cook clean with Royal Oak. Tuffy Stone joining us here on the Tailgate Guys BBQ show. Tuffy, your cookbook, I think it was published back in 2018, still extremely popular. Cool Smoke, the Art of Great Barbecue. When are you ready to do another one?
You're bringing up something that I'm tardy on, because my literary, I don't know if I call her an 8, I don't know what I call her, but anyways, Janice reached out to my publisher, St. Martin's Press, which they said, yeah, we'd like them to do another cookbook. It's done well for us. So she's just waiting on me. Well, so there's a little bit longer part of the story than that. When I was done with my first cookbook, I was exhausted. I did not use a ghostwriter. I unfortunately did not take typing in high school. So when I type, I'm a 2-finger typer. And anyways, a lot of work went into that cookbook. And when I was done, I was like, I don't ever want to do another one of these again. I'm exhausted. And then a couple of years went by, and I was having a meeting with somebody that helps me with some of my work one time, and I made the mistake of sharing with her, I got a new idea for a cookbook. And she went to my literary agent and told Janice, and Janice liked the idea, and she went to my publisher and shared the idea. So anyways, I think for me, 2023 would be the year, this year coming up. I feel like I have new things to say and more to say. And so if I had to guess, we could probably see one in the spring of 2024. It's interesting for me when I finally signed a contract and went into, all right, I got to do a cookbook now. I started looking at some of my friends' cookbooks, because there's so many great ones out there. And I was like, I would read something and I'd be like, oh man, Adam already said that, or so-and-so already said that. And I just had to like stop and say, all right, what do I have to say? What do I have to say that I feel like is complimentary to the knowledge that's already been put out there? Do I have anything unique to say? And so I kind of had to like figure out what my stance was going to be. For me, I mean, John Marcus gave me the nickname years ago, the Professor. And when he gave me the nickname, he said, Tuffy, I got to tell you, I gave you I've cast your role as the Professor. He said, you can talk for hours on smoke and wood and fire. And when he said that to me, I thought to myself, yeah, you're right. And so for me, I thought like I would be really remiss if I don't share my thinkings about fire management and smoke. You know, I always like to say I like to treat smoke like salt and pepper. I want that meat to be the star. I want, you know, Smokey. No, John Willingham wrote in his cookbook that smoke is dirt. He said we're cooking, we're not smoking. And when I read that, I clung on to that. That became my mantra. So I focus a lot on how to manage a fire, whether it's briquette, whether it's lump, whether it's wood. You know, I really pay attention to the smoke and what flavor it imparts on what we're cooking. And so that was important for me to do in my cookbook. And then I kind of brought in a little bit of my French, you know, trainings into there. But anyways, I got a new idea for a cookbook, and I need to get on it hard in 2023.
Well, we'll look forward to that. I know, you know, your detailed approach to things. Have you always been detail oriented? Is that something you were born with? Did you develop that in the Marines or while you're in culinary school, or where did that approach come from?
I think there's certain sensibilities in me that I've always kind of enjoyed some details, but the Marine Corps, the Marine Corps sculpted me, gave me discipline, taught me that I can make it through really rough situations. Going right from the Marine Corps to an apprenticeship under Chef Alain in his French restaurant was very intense. And I was probably the perfect candidate to be in that situation because of my experience in the Marine Corps. And then starting a sharper palate, starting the catering company with my wife. I read a article one time, a lady in California said that off-premise caterers are the Green Berets to the food service industry. And she's right, and we are. And the things that we do as caterers can be very difficult and very challenging. And so you couple that with us trying to start our own business and work for ourselves. Things got to be right. I had these simple philosophies that kind of like I really thought about when we opened the catering company. Lyndal, I thought if I came to your house, I cook good food, I give you good service, I charge you a reasonable price, and I leave your kitchen cleaner than when I got there, I thought we would stay in business. And so next year we'll be 30 years old, but that's dedication. That's detail. That's I had a caterer one time tell me you're only as good as your last catering, and that really stuck with me. I think it's the same with competition barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you told me you got 4 category wins this year, and you got your first KCBS 180. My guess is, and I don't know anything about the way you cook, but my guess is you planned your work and you worked your plan, and you were detailed in the preparations for those dishes, if I had to guess.
Yeah, just an example. Early in the year, first few contests, I had notes I followed, carried him around with me like a football coach on the sideline, look at him throughout the morning. By the middle of the year, I didn't need my notes. I'd done it enough and followed my details where everything became more clear in my mind. And I think that's just the advancement that a person makes when they do something more often and follow those details.
There's a culinary term. I write about it in my cookbook. I just made T-shirts that have it on there, but there's a French term called mise en place. And basically being organized. Everything has its place. Setting up your cook site, setting up your cook station, whether we're in a kitchen or we're a trailer or under a tent, but being very well organized. It makes when we're organized about going into our work, we're going to do a better job. And by the repetition of these processes become intuitive. They become innate, when you do them enough times.
Well, a big shout out to my wife, who's the backbone of the team, and my son, who knows before I ask him to do something, he's there waiting for whatever task we have. It's amazing how well we work together, and that's part of it, being an organized team and that organization. That's what makes it happen for sure.
100%.
Pitmasters was just a groundbreaking show. Did you catch the Barbecue USA show on Food Network last year that Michael Simon did? That kind of was the first show I saw that kind of replicated a little bit of what you guys did back on Pitmasters.
I think I saw one episode of it. I think I saw the Memphis and May one. I like Michael Simon a lot. He's great. Have you met Caden? Caden's a young boy. He's become my friend, but he cooked with us on the team of Memphis and May last year, and Michael was out there filming for that, and then he cooked with us at the Royal this year, and so Michael was kind enough to Caden was doing Kids Q, and so I went and got Michael and brought him over and introduced him to Caden, and so I don't know if that show's aired yet or not. I don't know if the Royal
no, I think it's on the schedule for next year, so we'll look forward to that. Yeah.
Okay.
As far as competition, you don't do that as often as you used to, but you still hit the Memphis May, the American Royal. I assume you are ready to do those again next year, and always look forward to them.
I just sent in my entry for Memphis and May yesterday, and it's going to be back on the river, so that'll be really enjoyable, and the Royal for sure. I usually do one in Washington D.C. I don't do many. I've got some of my friends. When my dad passed, some of my buddies kind of stepped up, and so they've kind of like become part of my team now, and so they want to get out there and cook more frequently than I probably do. And I was just having lunch with one of my buddies last week, and he had the schedule out. I was like, all right, we could do this one, we could do this one, we could do this one. So as well as I do, the great thing about competition barbecue is the people, and I've met so many dear friends through barbecue and competitive barbecue, and so it's like, where did I see you last? At the Royal? I think
yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's like I probably need to get out there and do it a little more than I do just to see friends.
Yeah, it's amazing the great people that I've met through barbecue I never would have otherwise. One of the big happenings for you since I last had you on the show was the release of your new line of rubs, and I don't know if the sauces were new, but the rubs certainly were. Tell us how the response has been to those.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for bringing that up. That means a lot, and I really appreciate it. You talked about the Westover, my little lunch breakfast spot that I had purchased right before COVID. I used to have this belief that being a chef was like being a plumber or being a carpenter, and as long as I knew how to cook, I'd always put a roof over my head. And when COVID hit my industry the way it did, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. They still need plumbers, but they don't need us cooks. And so, I was watching all my friends having huge success with their barbecue products, and everybody was in the backyard cooking. And I just kind of thought to myself, I probably should have been looking at this in a different way than I had. I had products out there, but I really wasn't, I wasn't out there promoting them. I wasn't out there, and so anyways, I made the decision to myself that I was going to try and see if I could make rubs and sauces and barbecue products be a new part of my life and how I earn a living. And so the first thing I did is like, all right, are my rubs and my sauces the best that I know how to make? And I was like, no, I think my sauces, I feel like they're a little thicker than I want them to be. I think I can refine those. Anyways, I looked at every one of my formulas, every one of my recipes, and I said, I think having had some time, I can tweak these. So I spent 6 months retooling 2 rubs and 2 sauces. Sauces are really different. The 2 rubs are significantly different, but still very close. And then I brought in a third product, which was my sweet rub. And then at that time, I was like, all right. I had a client one time. He said, "Tuffy, I want you to make these rubs and sauces, and I want you to put your picture on them, and I want you to put your name." And I was like, "I really appreciate this opportunity, but I can't do that. I can't put my image on a label, and I can't put my name." My grandfather's humility was in my head, and it just seemed like there was going to be something wrong about doing that. But as COVID kind of hit my industry, I had so many people saying, "Tuffy, while a lot of people know Cool Smoke, they know your name better than they know Cool Smoke." So I was talking to a designer who does really great work, Brady in Texas, and I shared this kind of story with him. And next thing I know, he was presenting to me new labels with Tuffy Stone instead of Cool Smoke, and with an illustration of me. And I just, did a lot of soul searching, and things had been so tough on food and beverage. I said, "Well, let's give it a go." So we did it, and I got 2 new rubs getting ready to pop out here probably in the next 30 to 45 days. I'm really excited about. We've gotten into True Value. I'm getting into some major retailers, national, which I'm excited about. We're starting to get our products back into so many of the barbecue stores and independent stores that have supported me so much. And so I got a lot of work ahead of me, Lyndal, but I'm really working hard at it, and trying really hard to do a better job and teaching people how to use these products, hopefully give them a product that helps make their barbecue better in their backyard. And that's where a lot of my efforts going into right now, is just seeing if I can't turn this into something bigger than it has been.
Well, and look for those in those retailers, and also tuffystone.com. You can find those rubs and sauces and all kinds of recipes and all kinds of great stuff there.
You're so kind. Thank you so much, Lyndal. I appreciate you.
But as far as people in the backyard cooking, I know that's a target audience that sometimes we overlook on this show, and probably other shows as well. But that's a backbone of America. Those folks out cooking in the backyard, and I know that's an audience that you're looking forward to reaching.
Well, I've almost got my cooking school back to being put back together. That's a long story, but I'm going to be focusing on classes that are geared towards backyard barbecue. You want to learn how to do all the techniques and methods, and make your own rub, make your own sauce, teach you how to trim, teach you how to butcher, teach you how to make a rub, how to apply a rub. So I'll be doing a lot of that, and I'm excited. It's like I already said earlier in this, in our conversation, how much I enjoy teaching, getting people really comfortable with a rack of ribs, getting people really comfortable with a brisket, and so I'm excited about that, and you bring on a lot of competition cooks, you bring on a lot of experts in barbecue, you bring in a lot of good pitmasters that have restaurants in your show, but those backyarders are listening to your show. It's like these people that just want to learn one thing to make their barbecue better. They're listening to your show. They're listening to the people that you have on it. And so I think your base for backyard listeners is probably pretty large.
Yep, and I would tell them to buy your book, and first thing to read is that fire management. That's the thing. You got to start. That's where you have to begin, don't you? That fire management, and get that right.
It's everything, and I think that's the part that makes people a little nervous when they start.
Right. Yep, no doubt. Tuffy Stone, the professor, Tuffy. It's always a joy to visit with you. Thanks so much for your time, man. I wish you the blessings on a joyous Christmas and happy New Year. And thanks so much. Always good to talk to you.
Thank you so much, and same to you and your family. And I hope y'all have a great holiday coming up, and get to love each other, and have some good meals together. And I just can't thank you enough for having me on your show again. I really appreciate what you do for the barbecue community, and giving a platform where we can have conversations and talk about cooking with fire.
Thanks so much, Tuffy. Tailgate Guys BBQ show rolls on. That is coming up next.